Hi, this is Carl, and this is another SOP video for managed service providers. Today I want to talk about documentation of your operations. Now that's different from your processes and procedures. So over here you got processes and procedures. So that's how do we do this? How to create a new client, how to onboard a client, how to set up a new PC. Today I want to talk about the operations, which is to say what goes on inside your company during a specific calendar year. Think of it this way, the easiest place to start with this documentation is with the year. So for us, we have a cloud storage device, we call it the S drive, and then underneath that I have a year. So 2019, 2020, 2021, right? For each year, we've got a folder, and then within that folder, we've got the specific things for running the business that year. Now, what's in this set of folders? Well, the first directory probably going to be clients, and then within that, each specific client. Now, don't create all of these at the start. Don't create a subfolder for every client. You only need a client folder in this setup if you exchange documents with a client, if they sign a new contract, if they send you a PDF for something, if you've got a PDF for some other kind of specific documentation, you're sending quotes, you're sending information back and forth that's important, then you might have take it out of Outlook or copy it from Outlook and save it here. Certainly when you're working on quotes and stuff, this would be a place to store those. And depending on special projects, you may have additional subfolders under that, but basically create only the client folders that you need. So there may be people who had big project last year, but this year they're kind of just hanging out, and so they may not need a folder within the client's folder section. So keep it as small as you possibly can. To be honest, that's one of the reasons why we start with the year, is so that I can stop building this one folder that would grow forever and ever and say, okay, so now we got 2019 and then we're going to move to 2020. We're only going to copy over, never move, copy over the stuff that's absolutely relevant to the current year. Next folder, for example, you might have an employees folder, or you might have a marketing folder, right? So within that, whatever, let's say it's marketing, you might have AdWord campaigns, blog information, or even drafts of blog posts, graphics, that kind of stuff. You should always have an operations folder. So underneath that, you're going to have, you might have employees there. Depends on how your brain works, right? If you don't have employees at the root, then you're going to have employees under operations. Depends on how much stuff you put there. You would certainly have a finance folder. You would have forms for things like hiring employees and so forth. And then you would have insurance, right? So you need to organize it in such a way that it makes sense to you. I always try to train people when they say, well, where should I put this? A file should always be placed in the single most obvious place that it should go. So for me, if I'm looking at something that is a quote to a specific client for a specific project, that is going to be in client name under clients folder under the current year. So everybody on your team has to figure this stuff out. And if you've got one or two people that their brain just doesn't work the same as yours, guess what? If you're the owner or you're the manager, your brain wins. Okay, but you still have to have the responsibility of making sure that everybody knows how to name files so they make sense, and where to place those files so that they can be found. Having files where somebody throws them up on the server but nobody knows where they are and they're not named anything that makes any sense makes them impossible to find. So we're not trying to hide something next to the Ark of the Covenant here. We're trying to make something as easy to find as possible. So with that in mind, create your company folders and make sure every year at the end of the year you sort of stop using the old folders, copy over stuff into the new folder only if necessary. That way, you've always got a reasonably small set of folders for a specific year, but you've also got all of your back information in other folders. So sometimes you can look back year after year and go to that clients folder and just see how the number of clients grew or shrunk or whatever within a specific year. It actually makes it pretty easy to find stuff in the long run. And again, if you use titles that make sense, titles for folders and titles for files that make sense, then searching for a file name becomes super, super easy. For Small Biz Thoughts, this is Carl Palchuk, wishing you the best of luck in your managed service business.
Please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell so you can be notified when we post a new video.